I got too drunk with my boss on New Year's Eve, and when I got home, my husband had emptied the house. Tom and Claire had the kind of marriage everyone admired. They were high school sweethearts, partners who shared everything from their dreams for the future to their favorite late-night snacks. Tom was steady, dependable, and loyal to a fault, while CLA was ambitious, warm, and driven. They had supported each other through college, their first jobs, and every tough moment in between. Together they built a home, filled with love and laughter. However, as Claire's career in corporate soared, small, nearly invisible cracks began to appear in the foundation of their marriage. Tom worked in finance, a stable and predictable job that allowed him to be home for dinner every night. CLA, on the other hand, landed a high-paying role at a rapidly expanding tech company. The position demanded long hours, frequent travel, and an exhausting schedule. Tom, ever supportive, encouraged her to chase her dreams, even if it meant missed dinners and late nights. He told himself it didn't bother him. He wanted her to succeed. One Friday evening, CLA came home much later than usual. The faint smell of wine clinging to her clothes, she stumbled in, laughing softly to herself. Her cheeks flushed. Tom, sitting in the living room reading a book, looked up as she entered. "Hey, you okay?" he asked, setting his book down. CLA grinned and dismissed his concern with a wave. "Oh, we just had a team happy hour. Didn't realize it had gotten so festive," she said, planting a quick kiss on his cheek, but Tom couldn't shake a faint pang of unease. Claire had always been an open book, but lately she seemed more guarded. Her answers had become shorter, vaguer over the following weeks. Her absences grew more frequent. Work dinners, late meetings, and weekend team building trips became the norm. Tom, though worried, convinced himself he was overreacting. She was excelling in her career, and he wanted to support her. Yet a small voice in the back of his mind whispered otherwise. New Year's Eve was approaching, and Tom planned a quiet night at home, just the two of them. Champagne, watching the ball drop, and reflecting on the year. But on the morning of December 31st, Claire announced she'd been invited to an office party at her boss Mark's mansion. "It's a fantastic networking opportunity, Tom," she explained, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Everyone from work will be there, and it's a big deal. You understand, right?" Tom's stomach churned. He had met Mark before, a confident man who commanded attention while well-regarded at the company. Tom couldn't ignore the way Mark's gaze lingered on CLA during events. He had brushed it off before trusting CLA completely. "Of course, I understand," Tom replied, forcing a smile. He offered to join her, but CLA insisted it was employees only that evening. As midnight approached, Tom sat alone, listening to the faint sounds of laughter and celebration from neighboring homes. He tried calling CLA, but there was no answer. Midnight came and went, and still she was nowhere to be found. At 2 a.m. his phone buzzed. A text from Claire: "Just leaving now, had too much champagne, but Mark is giving me a ride home. See you soon, love you." Tom's heart sank. Mark was driving her home in the early hours of New Year's Day. Something about the text felt wrong. Had tried to push the feeling aside, but doubt knotted him like a storm brewing in his mind. When CLA finally arrived, she was visibly tipsy, laughing. As she fumbled with her keys, she stumbled into the living room, mumbled a vague apology, and collapsed onto the couch. Tom looked at her, a hollow ache forming in his chest. His unease was now undeniable. In the weeks that followed, Tom's suspicions deepened. CLA seemed distant, her attention elsewhere. Conversations became distracted, and her late-night texting became more frequent. One evening, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed. A notification lit up the screen. Tom's eyes darted to it, and he saw Mark's name. A wave of nausea swept over him as he picked up her phone and unlocked it. He hesitated, guilt glaring at him, but he needed to know. As he scrolled through the messages, his worst fears were confirmed. Mark had been sending CLA flirty, suggestive texts for weeks, and from her replies, it was clear she had encouraged it. "Last night was amazing. Let's do it again soon," one of her messages read. Tom felt his heart shatter. The messages were full of inside jokes, late-night meetups, and even the occasional "miss you" from her. He couldn't believe it. The woman he had loved and trusted was sneaking around with her boss. As he put the phone down, an old resolve washed over him. Claire had made her choices, and now it was time for him to make his. Tom knew he couldn't just confront her. He wanted her to feel the same betrayal, the same devastation he was feeling, and so he carefully crafted a plan that would leave her regretting every deceitful moment. Over the next few days, Tom prepared everything he needed, opened a separate bank account, Quietly transferring funds from their shared savings into his private account, he began moving his personal belongings out of the house, taking only what he truly needed, and placing the rest in storage. He wanted it to seem like he had vanished overnight, leaving her to return to an empty, desolate home. Tom planned every detail meticulously. He printed out screenshots of her messages with Mark and placed them in an envelope on the kitchen counter alongside his wedding ring, and a short note that read, "I know everything, goodbye." On the night before he planned to leave, he packed a single suitcase, ensuring there would be no trace of him. Left behind, he took down the photos of them together, their wedding picture and even the snapshots of vacations and shared memories. He wanted the house to feel as empty as he did inside. Finally, New Year's Eve arrived exactly 1 year after the night she had gone to Mark's party. Tom knew CLA had another late-night work event as soon. As she left, he made his final preparations, locking the door behind him. For the last time, he took one final glance at the home they had built together. A mixture of and grim satisfaction washing over him as he walked away. CLA returned around midnight, expecting to find Tom asleep. But as she stepped inside, she was greeted by an unsettling silence. The house felt cold, lifeless. The absence of Tom's warmth sent a shiver through her. Her heart began to race as she looked around, confusion giving way to dread. The photos were gone. The shelves were empty. The rooms echoed with an eerie quietness, a haunting void where their together had once been. Then her eyes fell on the envelope sitting on the kitchen counter. With trembling hands, she picked it up. Her heart sank as she read the note and saw the screenshots enclosed. Tears blurred her vision as she absorbed the evidence of her betrayal, laid bare. Every message was a painful reminder of her choices, of the trust she had shattered. She called him repeatedly, but every call went straight to voicemail. Desperation clawed her as she left message after message, pleading for forgiveness, begging him to talk to her. But Tom had severed every tie, cut every connection. He had left her with nothing but the bitter taste of regret. Days turned into weeks and Claw's life began to unravel. The affair with Mark dissolved quickly. After Tom's departure, Mark had no interest in a serious relationship for him. It had been nothing more than a fleeting thrill with her personal life in ruins. CLA felt the crushing weight of her choices. The lonely was suffocating. Meanwhile, Tom was rebuilding his life. He moved to a new city, found a fresh start with a new job, and began to heal on his own terms. Friends and family rallied around him, offering their support as he pieced his life back together. Every so often he heard from mutual friends about Claire, how she was struggling, how she'd lost more than she had ever anticipated, but Tom felt no pity. Only relief. He had freed himself from a marriage built on deceit. Months later, CLA reached out one last time. She poured her heart out in a heartfelt letter filled with apologies and regret. She asked for a chance to meet, hoping for closure. Tom read the letter, his heart steady and calm. He had already moved on. His life was rebuilt, his peace restored. In his final response, he left her with one simple line: "I loved you once, but I love myself enough to leave you behind. Sometimes walking away is the only justice."